Hello, bonsoir, and welcome to the Get French Football News Show. I'm your host, Nathan Staples, and joining me this week are Eric David and Philippe Bargil. Football can provide so much drama, and even though the season is coming to a close, there are still some stories to be told, and someone could still pull a rabbit out of a hat. But before we get into a really jam-packed show this week, here's this week's news. Lyon kept up their fine form in the league, riding their luck a little bit before Maxwell Cornet scored twice in 6 first-half minutes, which was enough to secure a 2-0 win at Montpellier. The result sees the team in second on goal difference, and one positive was followed by another as Nabil Fekir made his return from injury as a second-half substitute. Saturday's early match saw Lucas Moura power a heavily rotated Paris Saint-Germain past hosts Guingamp with a brace 2-0. Laurent Blanc adding debuts to two teenagers in the second half. And in the multiplex, Lorient won at Caen 2-1. Benjamin Janot's determination leading to the opener before Majid Waris added his 11th of the season with a penalty. In Saint-Etienne, Neil Maupay scored a late winner as Les Verts kept their grip on 6th with a 1-0 win over Troyes, while at Angers, an aggressive Gazelec failed to breach the host defence. A scoreless draw hardly the ideal tonic for the visitors' survival hopes. This was doubtly true as the two main rivals for safety, Toulouse and Reims, both won at home. Le TFC battered Bastia, who had Yannick Cahuzac sent off. They won 4-0 behind a brace from Wissam Ben Yedder, while a late free kick from Nicolas Depréville deflected in off Youssef Sabaly to give the Champagne club a win at Nantes 2-1. On Sunday, a rampant Lille won for the 5th straight match, defeating visiting Monaco 4-1, with both sides reduced to 10 men in the second half following the dismissals of Elderson and Renato Civelli. Surely the story of the weekend was Hatem Ben Arfa yet again, as the Nice player notched a hat-trick to account for all the goals in a 3-0 win over visiting Rennes, a result which saw Les Aiglons leapfrog the Breton side into 4th, just 2 points back of Monaco and Lyon. The match day concluded with a scoreless draw at the Stade Velodrome, the visiting Bordeaux bringing with it a considerable crowd trouble at the end of the game. In Ligue 2, a point at Brest was enough for Le Havre to maintain third place on goal difference over Red Star, who shook off their derby disappointment with a win at Ajaccio. While Metz lost, Lens won, bringing the northern team to within 3 points of promotion, with Le Grignac maintaining a 1-point advantage. That's all your headlines this week, and remember, if you want your latest news, head on over to our website at www.getfootballnewsfrance.com and follow us on Twitter at GFFN. We start with the events of Wednesday evening as Paris Saint-Germain were held to a 2-2 draw by Manchester City in the Champions League. The Ligue 1 champions head across the channel on Tuesday, but Philippe, how disappointing was the result at the Parc des Princes?
Yeah, it was very disappointing. First of all, the result 2-2. It's not a good score to concede because it almost feels like a defeat, especially against a side that did not look that much better. Did not look equal in terms of quality of same quality as PSG. But just to give the general idea to the people who have not seen the game. PSG have basically maybe two players who played well, and even then I'm struggling to think of anyone apart from probably Maxwell and Thiago Silva. I think actually David Luiz didn't have that bad a game. So it started with David Luiz with a booking, and he's going to miss the second leg in at Eastlands tomorrow. Matuidi is going to miss it as well, and Matuidi did not play well. It's probably one of his worst games of the season. Thiago Motta went missing. He was not there when we needed him, and which was the case at Marseille, which was the case at Lyon, which was the case against Chelsea, and his future really needs to be addressed ASAP. I did not see neither Di Maria nor Cavani have a particularly good game in the first half. I thought Di Maria played much better in the second half, but then you had Zlatan. Zlatan missed a penalty. He missed a one-on-one against Joe Hart, which he really should have scored from, which you would have backed him to score from. But on the other hand, I mean, he did score the equaliser out of absolutely nothing, out of just Joe Hart taking a goal kick and passing it to Fernando. So it was just so disappointing the way the players did not perform against a side that was not very good. I mean, we were talking about this with Lloyd last week. De Bruyne apart, I wasn't really concerned about containing a goal from Manchester City and their strikers. I mean, yes, they did have Yatoure out and so on and so on. But apart from De Bruyne, there was not really much sweat. And to concede that goal as a 2-2 goal is so disappointing. It's absolutely. It's almost humiliating, really, because as the ball comes in, it's so easy to defend, but Aurier just does not cover himself in glory. He was actually booed off the pitch when he was replaced by Van der Wiel. So yeah, a real poor performance that should be forgotten ASAP.
Eric, it was an interesting game, really, and neither side really covered themselves in glory defensively. But when PSG went 2-1 up, you would have thought that they had enough to see out the game, really, at that point, didn't you?
You know, I wouldn't actually have thought so. I felt that Manchester City put in a really solid performance. I think that PSG's midfield was a little bit too one-dimensional. Matuidi and Rabiot are both fine players in their day, but they're also of a piece. They like to run at opposing players with the ball at their feet. They're not the greatest passers. They like to be very direct, but the way that City tracked back and really shackled them, Silva and Navas in particular, they're not really players that you would think of as being, players who like to play a pressing game, getting down, up and down the pitch to contend with opposing midfields. But they really did that well, and that to me was at the heart of City's performance. And I think that, for me personally, the way that PSG set up, I think that honestly a draw is a lucky result for them. I think that City turned in a really consummate performance, and they're not really been getting enough credit. I think that Blanc did not set up the team well to win, and I think that he's reaped his rewards. A 2-2 draw is probably a generous result. If you've got Toure back in the side and company's not past fit, he's not going to feature tomorrow. City became a much more difficult proposition. So yeah, I mean, PSG certainly missed their chances early on, but the fact of the matter is, this is a Champions League. I mean, you've got to take your chances. I mean, we saw that, with City themselves. The loss to Juventus at home in the group stages, that you can really be undone by not taking your chances. And I think by setting this team up in this way, I think that starting Aurier over Marquinhos at right back was a mistake. I think starting Cavani over Lucas on the left was a mistake on Blanc's part. I think Di Maria should have been dropped into midfield in place of Rabiot. I just think this team wasn't properly set up, and I think that their weaknesses and their sort of one-dimensionality were there for anybody to see prior to the match based on the way the teams were set up, and Pellegrini took advantage of that, and he got great performances from Silva and De Bruyne. I think that we're not seeing that in terms of hard numbers of goals or assists, but the movement of those two in particular to track back and to really harry Manchester City's midfield, Thiago Motta in particular, even Aguero was getting into the act. He and De Bruyne were exchanging places vertically quite a bit. That City, I think, deserved the result. I mean, and Aurier, he gets his studs caught trying to cut out that pass, but what's he doing there? What is the right back doing to the left of the two central defenders? He had got the ball robbed off him prior to the goal by David Silva, who cut inside and laid the ball off to De Bruyne, who passed to Navas, who passed to Sagna. So get back and track Silva. Silva's outside the area at that point when the goal is scored. So, and and both of the City players in the box, Fernandinho and Aguero, are being marked by Silva and Rabiot. So Aurier's got no reason to be where he is at that point in time, and I don't think that Marquinhos or Van der Vaart, whichever one of them would have started over Aurier at right back, would have allowed themselves to be caught in such a position. He's not defending the cross. Maxwell is defending Sagna. He's got no reason to be where he is, and because of that, I think that Blanc needs to have a real thought about how he's going to set this team out tomorrow. I mean, obviously because of suspensions, Marquinhos will start at center back, but personally, I'd rather see Van der Vaart started at right back tomorrow, based on the performance of Aurier last Wednesday.
I was talking about this before. I mean, Van der Vaart is a bit made of a bit part player for PSG because he plays the games against the likes of Angers and Lorient, but as soon as Aurier gets suspended for being a silly boy, Marquinhos gets a nod in the big games and Van der Vaart does not, and you can bet anything worse you may have that Marquinhos is going to start over Van der Vaart, which is a shame because it's not Marquinhos' real position. Marquinhos is a centre back, not a right back. And I do agree with you, Eric, that Van der Vaart or Marquinhos would have done better on that on defending that action which led to the goal. So it's a bit harsh on Van der Vaart if you think about it. I mean, Aurier did insult the whole the manager, the whole club, and he basically walks back in the squad. A lot of fans are not very happy with that. Was Aurier, and he was booed when he came off.
Yeah, and it's not surprising that was the case, but to play a little bit of devil's advocate, it was a strange game to bring Aurier back into the fold. I would have thought that Blanc may have the sense that he's not played a competitive match for a good couple of months. He's not necessarily going to have the right crowd reaction at a home game to any performance he puts in, so maybe it was the wrong choice overall to play.
Well, they play with the reserves quite a bit, but that's not the same
it's a different
thing.
kettle of fish, isn't it? It's not Champions League quarter-final at home.
Not
but
exactly.
I don't. It might have just been me, and when I was in my youth playing as a centre back, that I was really disappointed with David Luiz's performance in the game. I thought, although they caught out a little bit in the first goal, he never seemed to try and make an effort to try and close down De Bruyne, who's, as you're taught, he's the man with the ball, he's the danger, and he goes and scores because he's given free rein to pick a spot. In the second goal, yes, Aurier is out of position, but as a centre back, you organise where he is as well, because Luiz is just standing in the middle of the area, marking no one, doing nothing at all. You either do something or organise someone to do something. It seemed like he was a passenger, and I think it might be a slight blessing that he's not. He is suspended for this game coming up, isn't he? He's got the 2 yellows.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so that might be a small blessing in disguise that he might not be playing, because I think Marquinhos offers a more competent option in my opinion. If he's just going to allow goals like that, which is disappointing. But we've mentioned the midfield. Philip, do you think? And there's rumours that Verratti he trained alone today, so there's still rumours that he might play. It might be a ruse. We don't know yet. Could he be the difference in the next game? Is he someone that will add balance to that midfield?
The media have been talking about it non-stop, as I've actually been talking about it much more than actually PSG's game at Guingamp. My opinion is that whether Verratti starts or not doesn't make much difference. I do believe that PSG's midfield is stronger than Manchester City's, even with Yaya Touré in it. With or without Verratti, I really do believe that Thiago Motta really just needs to get his ass into gear and play seriously, like we know he can do, for just one last stroll. Obviously, having Verratti will help, but there's no chance in hell that he's going to start after what we've witnessed in training, and you just don't come back. you are definitely not match fit, and you're going to play PSG's most important game of the season to date. I mean, if it were against a team like Atletico or Barcelona or Bayern Munich, I would say, playing, because otherwise we don't stand a chance against these guys. But we do stand a chance against these guys. We do stand a chance against Manchester City's midfield, which is the most important. I mean, there's a formation for tomorrow evening writes itself because of the amount of absentees. Pastore is out. Pastore is out, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, he's doubtful, but he won't start.
Yeah, so you can basically say, okay, we've got David Luiz suspended, Matuidi suspended, Verratti and Pastore on the bench. So we basically only have one starting 11 fit to play. That is Champions League quality, shall we say? So I know that's a lot of absentees. That's quite a lot of absentees, but still, I reckon that PSG's midfield should be able to contain the likes of Fernandinho, De Bruyne, Arturi, and all that. I'm not actually quite sure how City are going to line up. Nasri is back as well, isn't he?
He's not. He wasn't included in the squad for the first leg, so he can't play in this match.
Right. Okay.
So if you're not included in the first leg, you can't be included in the second.
Correct. You have to name a 25-man squad for each successive leg or each successive round of the competition. He wasn't named in the first for the first leg.
So Nasri's not playing.
He's not eligible at this round.
All right, that's interesting. Because you see, I would have probably had Nasri over Navas personally, because I don't really rate. Navas.
Philip, I really disagree with that. I thought City's attacking quartet played fantastically well. I think that the interplay of Navas and Silva and De Bruyne De Bruyne especially to go into wide positions left. That's the reason Thiago Motta played well. I think that Thiago Motta had no idea how to mark these players because Silva and De Bruyne in particular were each able to get wide, to switch flanks, and to drag the center backs and Motta out of position. It was the same thing with David Luiz. After that early yellow card, how is he going to go herring out of the box to close someone down, knowing he's already on a booking? Not only is he suspended for the next leg, but to leave PSG with 10 men chasing the game, chasing a positive result at least, if not a victory, as it stands, I think really would have left the team in dire situation. So I think part of the criticism of Luiz is fair in terms of his marking, but in terms of playing the style of football he likes to play, that high energy, getting at players, bursting out of defense with the ball, he needed to exercise a degree of caution given his early booking. And I think that might have given him pause. That might have caused him to play with a level of hesitation as the match wore on, not wanting to have been booked a second time or to put his team at a disadvantage heading into the second leg. And I think a lot of that was down to, again, the movement of City's midfield. If you watch the positions these players were taking up, I mean, De Bruyne goes out to the left flank, goes out to the right flank. He's constantly creating overloads. Silva drifts inside to play as the number 10. If you're Aurier, you're Maxwell, you're Motta, you're the center backs, how are you supposed to keep track of these players? Each of whom is fantastic with the ball at their feet, is a good passer, is a goal threat. Aguero was dropping deep. De Bruyne was playing as the furthest forward, and the net effect of that was to really stymie PSG's midfield and defense. I mean, we saw a very similar approach from Lyon, albeit with a different formation, but that free interchange of players, it was Cornet, it was Maxwell, it was Cornet, it was Maxwell, Cornet, Ghezal, and Lacazette, but it was the same thing. To have a fluid attack where players can take up different roles in different positions and still be effective has proven once again to be PSG's undoing. With Thiago Motta played as a defensive midfielder. He simply doesn't have the pace to keep track of this. I mean, there was a lovely sequence of play early in the first half where De Bruyne got beyond Motta as a result of a give and go with Sanya on the right, and he cut inside and he cut it back to Silva. And eventually, Fernandinho took a shot from outside the area. It went over. The chance went begging. But what you basically had at that point was De Bruyne running at Silva, running at David Luiz with 10 minutes into the match with with Luiz already on a booking. what's going to be the outcome of that? It's going to be a dangerous situation for City. It's going to be PSG, nervously defending the movement of these players. And again, the results, the goals that City scored were down to down to mistakes. But the fact of the matter is, it was their movement that constantly created chances for them and made PSG look so shaky at the back. And and that's the thing. PSG haven't shown that they can cope with a truly mobile attackers. And that was their
Manchester City. Are you saying Manchester City outplayed PSG in the midfield rather than PSG didn't play to their full potential?
Absolutely. If you watch the match, watch how many times Navas and Silva dropped deep, even deeper than Fernando and Fernandinho. They dropped deep to cover wide balls to Aurier and Maxwell, allowing Fernandinho and Fernando to get forward and close down the runs of Matuidi and Rabiot. How many times did one of those players lose the ball? Yeah, they're great. They have good pace, they have good energy, but they're not the most technical of midfielders in terms of their dribbling ability. That is to say, Matuidi and Rabiot. And by allowing Fernandinho and Fernando to get forward and close those players down in the tackle, by cutting off their options to pass to the flanks with Silva and Navas, I think that Pellegrini really got his tactics right. Again, they rode their luck a little bit with Hart saving the penalty, and there was another decent shout for a penalty earlier in the match when Mangala took out Matuidi. But
do you think it was one?
I mean, a shout. I don't think it was, but again.
Me neither. I think it's shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, I think it was as well.
But
I mean, everybody on Twitter was saying it's a penalty, it's a disgrace and stuff. No, not really. I thought actually that the referee in the first half got everything right, because when it wasn't a penalty, he didn't whistle. So it was shoulder to shoulder, and Sanya's foul.
But it was still a dangerous situation.
No, I know, but I wouldn't have pointed to the spot either. And Sanya's foul on, I think it was Di Maria. No, it wasn't. On David Luiz, was it? For the
David Luiz, yeah.
David Luiz. That was a stone roller. So I thought the referee got that spot on in the first half.
No, I agree, but I think the energy of City's midfield is not getting nearly enough credit. I mean, Fernando gets stick for the back pass, but on the whole, he was all right. And Fernandinho was magnificent. I think he probably had a dozen tackles. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but the movement and the interplay amongst those players and the effort shown, particularly again, Navas and Silva are never players you're going to think of as being energetic and tracking back. They're sort of fancy Dan types, pacey, whatever. But their effort on the night was tremendous, and it doesn't really show up in statistical analysis. But watching their positioning on the pitch and how that allowed Fernandinho and Fernando to get at Matuidi and Rabiot was what won the match.
Yeah, it's a different way of looking at things.
Gave City a good result, I should say.
It's a different way of looking at things, and one that certainly wasn't, shall we say, taken upon by any of the media here. To most of the media, be it on television or the internet or the radio, it was the midfield trio did not have a good game, and they need to up their game. And if they do, PSG will progress.
And they didn't have a good match because Rabiot and Matuidi attack in the same manner, and that was easy for City to double down and have their wide players track back.
But yeah, still, I still reckon that easy mistakes were made by most of PSG's squad. Who was everyone's man of the match actually for PSG?
Di Maria.
Probably.
Okay.
But I think, Eric,
that's why it was terrible in the first half. I mean, again, you can always say because City played well, City defended well, Pellegrini got his tactics right, but still you expect that kind of player to do better, because you could compare Cavani's performance week in, week out with Di Maria's first half, where I honestly thought that Di Maria in the first half was absolutely not shocking, but so not.
He struggled to find space.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah. Still, I mean.
I think Eric made a really good point when he mentioned the work rate of the wingers of Manchester City, because restricting the fullbacks really restricted the width of Paris Saint-Germain, especially with Cavani playing instead of Lucas Moura. And that's something I do want to ask you, Eric. It's something you mentioned for big games this season. Do you think it was the right decision to start the Uruguayan over the
No,
Brazilian?
absolutely not. He's not dynamic enough for a 4-3-3. The other thing too is that we've seen. Look, a lot of the trouble that City gave PSG was down to the ability of De Bruyne, Silva, and Navas to exchange positions. The same would have been true. I mean, Clichy and Sagna had the easiest day you could ask for. All they had to do was hold their positions. But if you had played Mora and Di Maria, those two are both very adept at switching flanks, are effective on either flank, and to give to give Manchester City the same sort of headaches that Manchester City gave PSG by having these players switch positions and play in a more fluid fashion, I think that the PSG would have looked quite a bit more dynamic going forward and would have created more chances, dragging the defense all over the place a little bit more. But Clichy and Sagna were able to get up the pitch and break up play. They didn't have to be effective going forward. They just were able to focus on their defensive duties. But if you had played Lucas, who's a much more adept and mobile player than is Cavani, I think you would have seen, again, two older players in Clichy and Sagna being given a little bit more to think about.
Yeah, and
I thought Clichy had a great game personally as well. I would have, if I had to grade him, it would have been a easily 8 out of 10. Sagna probably a bit less so because of the penalty, but I really I do agree with you, Eric, that the fullbacks were not threatened enough in that game, thanks to the wingers, of course.
So let's give it a very quick sort of preview to the game tomorrow night. Philip, do you think that starting someone like Lucas might add some dynamism to a PSG side that definitely needs to score goals, and what's your prediction for the game?
Well, Lucas is going to start. I mean, there's no real other option than having Di Maria in midfield and having Lucas on the right wing, Cavani on the left wing. So he's going to start, and I hope that he'll be more dynamic. I hope that Di Maria being in midfield, he will be able to get more influence of the ball. A bit like when you have Fabregas dropping deep. I mean, when those players start to drop deep, they get more of the ball. They get to organise the play in a different fashion, and I think this is how PSG are going to score goals. Now, I believe PSG will progress due to the overall quality of the side, because I still reckon that Wednesday evening, last Wednesday that is, was an off night for most players over Man City being very disciplined defensively. And I do believe that if they want the qualifications, they go and get it in England, just like they did at Chelsea. So I'm going to go with 2-0. I know it's very optimistic, and I really, really hope I'm right, because elimination would be catastrophic for PSG and would not be the end of the world for Manchester City, who actually have to focus on actually competing in the Champions League next season.
Eric, what do you think? Will the game will pan out?
I think that having Di Maria in midfield again is an upgrade. I think that if Rabiot can be a little bit more disciplined defensively and give Mata a little bit more support in front of the defense and allow Di Maria to have a freer role behind the attacking trio, I do think that PSG will display a little bit more fluidity going forward, and I would favor them to win. I'd probably say 2-1. I think it'll be a tough matchup. I do think that if Yaya Toure starts again, it's the same thing with Cavani starting on the regular for PSG. I don't think that he's. You watch the energy and the movement of those players, and I know Toure is a goal threat coming from midfield, which they desperately needed. I mean, De Bruyne can score, but besides Aguero, the City doesn't really have a goal threat. So I get why Toure might be attractive, but at the same time, he's not going to put forward the effort. We've seen him drifting in and out of matches too many times. I think the City should play the same team, and I think that gives them a better chance. But given the fact that Di Maria will be allowed more time on the ball and he's going to have more of an option to link up with the likes of Lucas and Ibrahimovic on the night, I think that PSG are probably my narrow favorites because if Torre gets the start, if City play the same 11, I'd probably give City the edge. I think that Pellegrini really needs to think about how this team performed as a team. Especially given how maligned they've been in terms of their defensive work over the course of the season. I thought they played exceptionally well on Tuesday last Wednesday in a lot of faces, and he should keep faith with the team that got him a good result at the Parc des Princes.
I'm going to throw a spanner in the works, and I think it might be 2-2 again. I think this actually might go.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah, I have a feeling that because neither have particularly covered themselves in glory defensively, even though, and both are in half decent form in the league. They've got most of their players back. If Verratti starts, I'd give PSG a slight edge, and especially if Lucas starts as well, I'd give them a slight edge. But I think it might be 2-2, but we shall wait and see. It's going to be a very intriguing affair on Tuesday.
One thing that really needs to be done is progress, because the 3 other ties we haven't seen any side, walking their first leg. I mean, Barcelona struggled. Real Madrid are facing elimination right in the face, much more than PSG, and Bayern looked not very good against Benfica.
No, those ties are all in the balance.
Yeah.
Sorry? Still anybody's.
Yeah.
I said all 3 other ties are still in the balance, absolutely.
Yeah. It's going to be a very, very interesting.
So hopefully win the draw on Friday.
Yeah. If you're in the pot, at least that's all you can hope for when you get to a semi-final stage. So good luck to Paris Saint-Germain, and we'll all be watching with interest. But we'll move on. Just a few weeks ago, everyone thought that Toulouse were dead and buried, but 3 wins in their last 4 under new boss Pascal Duprat has put them just 2 points off 18th and 4 points from safety. But the question is, Philip, can they do it?
It just goes to show what change of management makes. Great win against Bastia on Saturday. It was a second home game in a row, so a second win in a row. And now they find themselves with 32 points from 33 games, which is a great tally for a side that was supposed to go down, that was destined to go down. I mean, after defeats to Rennes at home, this was actually the drop that made Ari Baji lose his job. I mean, it was almost certain that they were going Troyes' way, but 3 wins in 4 games later, they're only 4 points from Reims, and with a similar goal difference. Now, if you look at their run-in, it's not easy, but I do believe that they can make a solid 10 points from the remaining 15 games. First of all, they've got Lorient away. I think if they really push on, they can win at that place. It's going to be tough. It's going to be extremely tough. Lorient is a tough side to beat, and Lorient are not safe yet. Mathematically, but I reckon that if you're 10 points clear of Toulouse, you are going to go to stay up. But then Toulouse have this Rhône doubleheader, Lyon and Saint-Etienne. And that's then followed by a home game against Troyes, so that's a banker home win, and then a trip to Angers. So from there, I really see 3 wins, and maybe a draw against Lyon, and maybe a draw against Saint-Etienne. I don't know. I mean, it would take a pretty solid performance to not lose in those 5 games. But they've given themselves a chance, especially with those last 2 games. When you see, I honestly reckon that they won't finish 19th. If they do go down, they'll finish 18th. I do believe that Gazellec will go down, unfortunately, for what's been a fairy tale season for them. And then then you've got Reims. They've got Marseille away on the penultimate day. I mean, not exactly tough place to go to these days. And then home to Lyon. They could do it. But yeah, it really does depend. They really look completely this sense of being happy to play together that Lille are enjoying under Antonetti, and Rennes are actually enjoying under Courbis despite yesterday's result. But having a new manager, it really seemed to have changed everything for them, which is great, really, because it would be a shame to see this club in Ligue 2 again, honestly.
Eric, it was a fantastic 4-0 win, really, at the weekend, and it's a great platform, these last few results, for Toulouse to try, at least, and stave off relegation at the very last moment. Can they do it?
Yeah, I agree with Philip. I mean, I don't... Saint-Etienne and Lyon, I think, have a lot to play for, Philip, and I think you might be giving Toulouse a little bit too much credit in trying to get results against those two. But the fact
Well, a
remains,
draw, not a win. Draw. Possible.
Okay, maybe a draw against one of them, but again, yeah, as you rightly mentioned, the other 5 matches, I think the other 3 against Lorient, Troyes, and Angers are eminently winnable, and 10 points again would see them safe. Yeah, I think they can. I think that the form of Braithwaite and Ben Yedder is really key to this. That those two are playing with a hunger that we haven't seen, and well, Ben Yedder I think has really come on since the turn of the year. Braithwaite's sort of been there all season. But now they're both in double figures, and that's sometimes all it takes in Ligue 1. Is just to have one superb offensive player. And I've said this before. I said it last week talking about Ousmane Dembele. We've seen it in the past with Anthony Martial. In the recent past, Nabil Fekir. One offensive Atem Ben Arfa, one player who's driven, who's motivated to put the ball in the net, is really all it can take in this league, because things are so tight defensively, and there's so many teams stacked up between Troyes and PSG, the other 18 teams. I mean, I think that any of the rest of them can beat any of the rest of them if things go their way, and I think Toulouse have the tools to do that. Another thing that I think we shouldn't be remiss in mentioning is how the defense has tightened up under Duprat. They've only conceded 2 goals in 5 matches under him, and things hadn't been awful defensively before that. But the fact is, they were losing a lot of these matches 1-0, 2-0, or 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, drawing 1-1. They didn't have without keeping clean sheets, they weren't able to record the points that they need to survive. And again, the loss to Lille looks a lot better given the form that they're in. And the other 3 matches of the recent 4 are a combined 10 goals for and none against. And so that improved defense, I think, is something Duprat's also got to take credit for too. I mean, Evian went down under Duprat last season, and that was more down to just a lack of attacking talent. I mean, I don't think that there were a couple matches where they had essentially no fit strikers. It was not anything down to Evian's defense. I think that what he has shown, in addition to giving this team a little bit more joie de vivre, is to show that defensively they can be really sound as well. And I think that's an important thing to take forward as well. He's continuing to give these young players a chance, the likes of Issa Diop, to let things continue to go forward and get more confidence. And if this team can stay up and hold on to Braithwaite and Ben Yedder, I think things will be a lot more comfortable next season. I think that Duprat, for installing this confidence in these players and having the willingness to drop important players, likes of Kanabiak, Akpro, Trejo, in these big matches has really given them a boost. I mean, let's face it, how important those 3 players I just mentioned have generally been to Toulouse over the course of the season, in a match that was pretty much must win, given the other results that were happening, that being the win of Reims at the same time. I think shows a lot of confidence and a lot of bravado on Duprat's part, and he should really be given a lot of credit for that, for being willing to shake things up and give the opportunity to the players who are actually going to get things done on the pitch and aren't just relying on their past achievements or their names.
Yeah, that's probably the shame for Toulouse at the weekend. Their result combining with Reims' result, with them winning, maintaining that 4-point gap. If they were just 2 points away from safety, it would have been really, really interesting, especially looking at Reims' games is left. They've got Troyes next week, so that's can be practically 3 points on the board. So it gets it doesn't get any easier for Toulouse unless they drag more teams in, and the likes of Guingamp don't have the most favourable run in.
I still don't think Montpellier are safe either. They just don't have a striker, and I've said this all season. I mean, yeah, Ningo is a great find, but when's the last time he scored? You know, they had Morgan Sanson score a brace 2 weeks ago, but again, you know, he's a fine player, but not someone they can rely on for goals. To me, I think Montpellier, given Toulouse's form, I'm not saying they're the favorite to go down, but if Toulouse are gonna catch a team besides Ajaccio, I think it's gonna be Montpellier.
Looking at their games, it'll be interesting because they've got Nantes, who are middling in mid-table now, really, after a great middle run of being unbeaten. They've got Troyes, and that might see them save 2 wins there. They've got Reims the week after that, so it's interesting that all these teams have games that you can say are winnable, and it gives us that interesting end of the season. But we've mentioned Wissam Ben Yedder before on this show, Philip, and criticised him earlier this season, but he has, as he should do, prove us wrong and really come into the form in the last few weeks, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. I was just looking at that stat, Eric, and Inga's last goal was on December 12th, so a long time ago.
Long enough.
Against Lyon, I think. No, that was the match before that. Never mind. Anyway,
but it was during those days. It was against Guingamp, actually. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Ben Yedder. So. We've talked about him before. Toulouse definitely didn't want to sell him, no, he's still far too good to play for a side fighting, against the draw. That's for sure. And he can be relied upon if you're having a bad day defensively, just like it was a case at home to Bordeaux, where he scored a hat-trick. And it was a case against Bastia where he scored a brace. So now he's back. He's back at 15 goals, just one behind Ben Arfa, who scored a hat-trick. Quite wonderful one at that. And Lacazette, who has not had his best season, but he's still 16 goals, and I still believe that whatever happens, he will be sold this season. Even if they do stay up, because he is, let's face it, a 15 to 20 goal player, 15 to 20 goals a season striker, which really is extremely important in a league like Ligue 1. So great credit for him, and he'll definitely need to be on form if Toulouse are to stay up.
And like we say, he's such a quality player that he's added 10, 12 goals to the season, and that could see them up. But with another player we've mentioned a few times, Eric, is and you've mentioned him briefly there, is Martin Braithwaite. I mean, credit to him for really pulling it out of the bag and giving Toulouse hope this season again.
Yeah, I think that he's more of a battering ram forward. He's not the most elegant of players, but he's never been someone who's been lacking in effort, lacking in trying to attack. And I think that perhaps more than any other player on this team, he's one who I think should be held up as someone who's put forth a genuine effort and played to the best of his, albeit somewhat limited talent throughout the course of the season, no matter the manager. And I think that he's a player that I think is someone that Toulouse really have to think about holding on to, pardon me, over the course of the season as well.
Absolutely. I think there might be a few teams, I'm thinking maybe championship level, that might think of making a money move for Braithwaite simply because of his work ethic and his goals. But it's great to see him finally sort of playing at a level we probably expected him playing at when he initially came. But hopefully, it's going to certainly be a very interesting race towards the end of the season for those relegation places now that Toulouse are back in that group. But move on to talk about Lyon, who have been unbeaten in their last 5 games, and a win on Friday combined with Monaco's defeat means they leapfrog their opponents into second place on goal difference. It was another excellent performance against Montpellier, although it came with a little tribulation at times, Eric. But before we talk about the game itself, how good was it to see Nabil Fekir on a football field again?
I think anybody who's a fan of attacking, stylish football and of young talent coming through in Liga has to be excited about the return of Nabil Fekir. He was absolutely a revelation last season, and even to the point where Didier Deschamps sort of restructured France's tactics to get the best out of him, and that's an incredible credit, given the other players that are options for him, likes of Griezmann and Pogba and what have you. So yeah, you can't help but have your heart warmed by the return of Nabil Fekir.
Yeah, and it was great to see. I cancelled all my plans on Friday to see Nabil Fekir take the field back on Friday, and it was good to see the Montpellier fans register that him coming back on. But looking at that game on Friday, Philip, it was a really good win and a continuation of how Lyon have been playing in the last few weeks, hasn't it?
Very much a ruthless performance, I thought, from what I saw from that game, because they got the goal, they got the job done, and the defending wasn't always perfect, and it has to be said that Lopez was the easiest goalkeeper in the second half, and then you had Fekir, who came on, and you could sense the whole team playing for him, just to make sure that he touches the ball, he gets into those positions. Gunnar at the end of the game plays a really intelligent pass to Fekir, who misses his lob, and everybody says, in a couple of weeks that lob goes in, because the passing was so much fluent, and that's what Lyon have been missing. But it's the story of the season. You can't. Sometimes you get those knocks. Sometimes you get those breaks. It's really made Lyon's season extremely difficult. But still, they did go and win at Montpellier. And this is third win in a row, and quite impressive one. And Fekir's return comes at an absolute perfect timing. It really has to be said. Ghezzal is in good form. Lacazette is scoring a couple of goals now, and I think the general play is quite good, and that Lyon are really wanting that second spot, and that they're going to get it. If this weekend has anything to go by, is that Lyon just got the result despite not defending superbly, and that Monaco completely sank at Lille, which is great news for Lyon, because they are going to be hosting Monaco on the penultimate day. There's actually going to be a fascinating game on paper on Friday between Lyon and Nice. Nice will beat Rennes 3-0. So yeah, it's great news for Lyon. If you're a Lyon fan, you must be happy with what happened this weekend. With or without Fekir, it's been a great result.
Yeah, and it was punctuated by a double from Maxwell Cornet, and both him and Ghezzal have impressed in Fekir's absence. Eric, how did you rate the youngster's performance and his double in this one?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little opportunistic, but I think the most important thing that we should take away from this is the willingness of Alexandre Lacazette to trust in Ghezzal and to trust in Cornet. I don't think we saw that from Lacazette earlier in the season, and he had his assist for Cornet's goal was really lovely, and I think that that shows Lacazette taking on a leadership role and being able to yield some of the spotlight to these young players, even as he himself is chasing a place in Euro 2016 and probably needs goals. But he's seeing that more importantly than that, than his own individual level of achievement, that Lyon need to be back in the Champions League, because that's what's going to make him truly that's what's going to give him a more substantial platform upon which to prove himself. So yeah, I think that Cornet, for his age, is really coming on in leaps and bounds. He was, sort of persona non grata in the beginning half of the season, played almost by default around the turn of the year, but he's really blossomed under Genesio in this 4-3-3, showing a great willingness to cut inside and to be a fairly decent finisher. He's got two good feet and is able to switch flanks with Gazal relatively easily. And yeah, I think that these three, again, fluid front three, is very hard to combat for most opposing defenses. And yeah, again, Lyon were a little bit lucky on the evening, but I think that really shows a credit to the players and to the coach for self-belief and for persistence.
Yeah, and another factor in that is we've mentioned Fekir's obvious return. With those three playing so well, it allows Fekir the time to settle back in and maybe not start games and rush back, but give him the settled substitute appearances and let him come back slowly while he regains his fitness. And that's really a huge plus with the lift that he gives them being on the field full stop. It's really, really a plus for Lyon. And you've already mentioned it, Philip. It's going to be an interesting game this upcoming Friday between them and Nice as Nice swept aside Rennes.
Oh, fascinating. Much more than bloody Monaco versus Marseille, which is on Sunday evening.
Yeah, which would usually you would think would be the interesting one, but
no.
Nice have really impressed this season, and surprise, surprise, it was Hatem Ben Arfa who got the hat trick at the weekend. How big would be a win against Lyon on Friday?
Well, he gets applauded, but Nice were just so much better than Rennes. I mean, comfortably the better side, be it defensively in midfield, and Hatem Ben Arfa was just the icing on the cake. Hatem Ben Arfa, there's some kind of way Nice are playing with and without Ben Arfa, and there's a kind of way other Ligue 1 sides are defending against Nice sides that are playing with Ben Arfa and Nice sides that are not playing with Ben Arfa. You sense that they're just much more wary and much more, scared actually when he's on the pitch, even when he's not having a good game, which seldom, never really happens. But he gets applauded because he can finish. But Plea had an amazing game, Cotsiello as well. Nice or Rennes were just fabulous to watch. Really, really great to watch. Which is, one of the reasons why everybody in Ligue 1, myself included, wants Nice to finish above Monaco, because it's better football, it's more adventurous, it's more nice on the eye. But of course, there's always the question mark of saying, well, Nice in the Champions League, but what's going to happen when Ben Arfa is going to leave, if he is going to leave? The president did say that he would consider trying to keep him on for a couple of seasons if Ben Arfa is, willing to stay on at Nice. And it could very much happen. Sorry. So he does get deployed because his finishing, his technique is second to none. It's far away one of the best in the league. To be honest, I mean, I don't really see. I don't really see anyone aside from Lyon or PSG signing him in Ligue 1, that is, and I'm not really sure that he wants to go back abroad just yet after what happened in England. I think he's quite happy to be in Ligue 1, where he's absolutely adored. I mean, the media love him, the fans as well. They all recognise he's a world-class player, and that they all want him to stay in Ligue 1.
Well,
I think he will.
The other thing too, I mean, we could look at Ben Arfa doing a Martial or Kurzawa, staying with, it needs to finish third, staying with them as they attempt to qualify through the playoff rounds of the Champions League, and then if they don't, then moving on, to play with a bigger club.
Yeah, it could be an interesting one.
No, I'm not quite sure who would. I don't know. This time around, I'm not. I just don't see. It's one of those things that those type of players that you really expected Ben Arfa to play for a bigger club. No disrespect to Newcastle fans who are listening to us, And everyone, we get this on Twitter all the time when Ben Arfa is doing some magical technical trick, and we get that at least once every time we do a commentary of a Nice game, saying a Newcastle fan saying, "Why did we let him go?" Because of what he does is so great, and it is true that it is very very good. But I'm not sure if the Bayerns or Real Madrid or Barca or Manchester United checkbooks will come up for him somehow. But you never know with Premiership money, as proven last August.
You've taken the words right out of my mouth. You never ever know, especially when the transfer window pops around. We'll never know until we see. But we'll finish this week with a quick heroes and villains section. I'll start with you, Eric. Who's your hero and who's your villain for this week?
I mean, Hatem Ben Arfa's got to be the hero. I've taken a little bit of stick over the past month or so from Christian about continuing to believe in Nice and their attacking potential. But again, Rennes were an informed team, and Nice, unequivocally shut them down, and Ben Arfa was key to that. So no issues there. Villain, Laurent Blanc. I think that he got his team selection wrong, and that more than any individual error, that he is to blame for PSG's defeat. I would have rather seen Lucas. I would have rather seen Marquinhos. I would have rather seen Di Maria in a midfield three. He just didn't understand the cogency of his players playing together and against a fellow ambitious top quality team. And he's got, if PSG do lose this tie, he's got to look himself in the mirror and think about why he has the loyalty and persistence to stick with certain players, and how that was his was the club's undoing on Wednesday, and maybe tomorrow as well.
Philip, who do you have?
Good hero Ben Arfa, obviously.
It's difficult not to be.
Villain, can I say last night's game?
Of course you can.
Yeah, good. Marseille Bordeaux was a potentially worst game of the season between two very very poor teams. Just going to go out and say that these two big clubs deserve better players. On the when I mean better players is aside the goalkeepers, because Mandanda and Prior are fine keepers, of course, but you saw the level of the play last night, and you just could not see at halftime. You could not see where a goal was going to come from, and it never came, obviously. And I don't really understand why Michel, who managed not to lose his job this week, did not start either of Nkudu or Batshuayi. So the whole thing, but both clubs stinks of disorganization, and not going to be too harsh on Bordeaux, because they sold all their best players to Sunderland this January. But just don't ever show us any those sides ever again in this season, please.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to get them again next Sunday when Monaco play Marseille. But I think, I have to agree with you that might be a contender of poorest game of the season, along with the unfortunate Nice-Bordeaux game I had to watch about a couple of months ago now. But
you see, that looked good on paper, but
ironically, they both have Bordeaux in them, so I think they might.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, but I would say my hero this week will be Pascal Dupraz. He's an enigmatic person, isn't he? He's very animated on the sidelines, and it's great to see him back in Liga and really doing. He could perform miracles at Toulouse, like we said. We thought they were dead and buried. Even a couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about the relegation fight, we thought Toulouse was still absolutely gone, and they're still there with a fighting chance. It'll still be difficult because the teams around them still have fixtures that are certainly winnable, but to be within a chance is still very surprising from where they were. Villain. I think I will go with that. I think the Marseille fans as well. I can understand their frustration. I can't believe that Michel's not been sacked at this point. But there's not really an option for Marseille otherwise. And
It's Christian who posted that apparently he wanted to be sacked, but the Margarita refused because she doesn't really have a choice.
yeah, so it's
Which I actually believe.
which makes complete sense because there's no plan B in place. It might go in the summer, so then they've got plenty of time to do something. But I can understand the fans' anger, but there's a constructive way to do it. The way they did it at the beginning of the game, at least against Rennes, was the right way to do it. But stay out of the stadium, show that you're willing to do that, and the trouble at the end was a little bit unnecessary. It's something we don't want to see because in the end it will again be a quiet velodrome game, and we really don't want to go back to that at all.
Not to mention the banner, Nathan.
Go ahead.
The banner. It was a banner saying, "Go back to your Margarita. Go back to your regular job, housewife." That was a bit,
Unnecessary, let's say.
Yeah, and, well, I think they just wanted to get that on TV, on Twitter, and basically everywhere. But they just want to moan, which you can actually sympathise with when you see the level of performances.
I think every single Marseille fan will be delighted to see the back of this season. I think, and hope will spring eternal.
Probably not the start of the next one.
Well, like I say, you never know in football. So that's all for this week. My thanks to Eric and Philip and all of you listening at home. We shall be here at the same time next week. A bientôt and goodbye.